All right, guys, welcome back to the Independent Investor channel. As I alluded to last night, a panel discussion between the four of us on Aduro Clean Technologies, recent updates, news releases to be covered and discussed. You're going to want to stay tuned to this. We're going to do a deep dive into what we feel is a value proposition that is being missed on the broader market. Yazan is going to get into that. But we do have Penny. She has been kind enough to come and join us. She hasn't been on the last couple we've done. So we're full force on this Aduro message today. Please, if you do like what you hear from each of these guys, Mariusz and Penny have YouTube channels, and they are featured channels of mine. You can easily directly find them through search, or you can kick over through the Independent Investor channel. They are both featured channels of mine. I highly endorse them. I do also want to remind everybody that this is going to be more of a bullish thesis on Aduro Clean Technologies. This panel has multiple years and a significant amount of shares in this company. So I just want to remind everybody to do their own due diligence. The disclaimers will be provided in the description. And just please understand that we are share owners in the company, not looking to misconstrue or misguide anybody, rather educate on what we think is probably one of the greatest inventions that this century has seen as it pertains to what they're trying to do on the plastic pollution front. Very exciting times with pending information, but certainly want to get into the review over the last couple of weeks because Aduro has unfolded a lot of information. And I just want to welcome Penny and Mariusz, but I will turn it over to Penny. If you don't mind, Penny, I haven't heard from you in a while, and I think our audience would absolutely benefit from hearing your perspective, maybe even your longer perspective, but more specifically over the most recent news on Aduro Clean Technologies. Penny?
All right. Well, I mean, let's just talk about the last month first. And I encourage anybody to look at the chart. In the last month, Aduro has gone from 378 to 627. So if this were a regular stock in regular circumstances, I would just be ecstatic, but I'd also be a little freaked out, right? I mean, you understand how things trade, but looking at everything that's happened in US markets, if you zoom out a little bit, you've got a perfect cup and handle setup. And Aduro's been as high as $7 after coming out on the Nasdaq. What's funny here is we have never seen a fair price for this stock. And I mean, that I'm excited, right? I only want to be in stocks that aren't valued fairly, but for Aduro, it is multiples from here. And that's going to continue to grow because we are dealing with a massive market. I mean, you said it already that this is one of the great developments of the century. I know for anybody who isn't really into this company and isn't digging deep all the time, we might sound like crazy people, but I'm pretty comfortable in that space. I mean, if you look at the total addressable market, and I think the thing that's becoming really clear to people is that what Aduro can do is handle all these plastics that other people can't. I think Eric said it best in an interview I did with him. He's talking about everybody fighting over basically the top of the pyramid, the ultra clean. There's not much you have to do to these plastics. Well, Aduro is, it's the entire bottom. I think of it like the food pyramid. Everybody else is going after the candy, where we're going after the meat and the potatoes. We're going after all of it, all the veggies, all your contaminated plastics. And the last couple of days, or I'll just say first, we had Siemens as an announcement. They're a really big player. Them choosing to partner with Aduro says a lot. I mean, look, of the partners we know of, there are a lot of multi-billion-dollar players, and now we're looking into actually building of the next plant that'll be out in Q3. And Siemens is on board. We've got Zeton. It's a bunch of serious players in what everybody considered a year ago some tiny small cap that didn't have a shot. And it's looking more and more clear. Now we have the clean farms, a press release, and that's showing that, this is the contaminated stuff that we've been talking about. It's another step in proving this out and showing the world that Aduro is so capable that it's not, they're not stuck to just one segment in plastics, and they're not just stuck to plastics, but we really don't need to get into their other verticals right now, because plastics is enough for all of the valuation points that we've been talking about. But the past week has really been about discovery on a wider scale. If you've been watching Twitter and other investment boards, you're seeing a lot of really interesting people with large followings that are starting to figure it out. So I'm happy that the four of us are sitting here at the tip of the sword, but I can't wait to see the rest of the action unfold this year.
Rock on. Thanks, Penny. I'll turn it over. Just quick, Mariusz, if there's any, get your reaction, especially on some of the highlights that Penny just talked about. Mariusz, welcome to the channel.
Yeah, well, I think the last part, what Penny was saying, is the activity that we're starting to see on social media from other accounts, other people other than us. And I think this is important because we've always talked about the low float. There's about 30 million shares. The management owns 40%, 39%. So we're saying 17, 18 million of shares available for purchase. That's not a lot of shares for a company that, says they have a solution for this major problem. And now we're seeing one significant account that discovered Aduro, and look what's happened to the stock price. And I track the number of watchers on StockTwist since they went and uplisted to Nasdaq in November. We are up like 40% in the number of people that are watching. It went from like 600, now we're almost 1,100. And that's just the beginning. We just started. And so then if one big account starts talking about it, then you have all these people that follow, then smaller accounts will start talking about it. Maybe somebody else will pick it up. It feels like it's getting a life of its own now, kind of spreading. And this is not, this is a real company with real technology and with real solution. And different people choose to join at different levels. When we joined, and Ryan, when you went to see the facility with your own eyes, I remember when I went, the discussion was about, we know that our technology has been validated. We know that it works, but it only works on a batch scale. That's when I got involved. And the issue back then was, well, is it really going to work on continuous scale? And if you did your due diligence and you talked with the management, you would have known that it was actually going to work better on a continuous scale. And it did. Just like they said, it did. But different people join at different times. So stock went up, got re-rated a little bit, and now the next milestones or the next concerns that the company has to address is the pilot plant. Many people don't want to touch it, especially institutions, unless we see a pilot plant. Okay, well, they're working on that. At the end of Q3, they're going to have a pilot plant. And all of us, because we've done our due diligence, we have a pretty high conviction that that's not going to be a problem, because Aduro is not about scaling, it's about the chemistry. But when we have the pilot, more people will come in and realize, oh, this is something big here. And then the next step is going to be the demonstration unit, which pretty much is a commercial unit. And more people will join the party. So we are at that point where we are reaching a stage where institutions are going to start getting interested. Also, institutions are getting their market cap requirement, volatility requirement, and at the same time, the stock is getting the company is getting discovered by more and more individuals, investors. So that's it for me for now.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you both for your perspectives. I think the value that you speak about is in the acute. I'm going to turn it over to Yazan right now because I mean I've been covering this company for 3 years. I've known what he's going to talk about on the surface, but he's going to break down the numbers, and I think you're going to find that there's a lot more value on the upstream and downstream sides of the waste stream that are eye-opening. With regard to, yes, there's acute value in Aduro licensing their technology, but I think when you plug Aduro into the circular value chain, what Yazan's going to get into is really, really eye-opening. So I want to turn it over to Yazan. Sit back, enjoy, and please pay attention to this because this is absolutely critical to understand about the value with Aduro on the fringes. Yazan.
Thank you so much for having us. So again, this is not financial advice. We're all shareholders. We have a vested interest in the company, so deal with it as such. Now, before I go into the numbers, briefly, I wanted to talk about something and then go into them. I don't know of companies out there, and there are, a few other players. One of them is like a $2 billion company that we won't mention now, but I don't see them attaching themselves to that many names of 130 and 150 billion dollar companies. Literally every 6 months, we see another name being attached to Aduro. And that gives you a couple of things. Look, these names don't give their, like, think of Siemens, think of Total Energies, think of Shell, think of Clean Farms, GF Buildings. These companies have zero interest in helping Aduro becoming known to the public. They don't like to lend their name early on. But when I talk about the numbers in a second, you're going to see why they want a solution. The issue is that most people are stuck comparing, and as I guess Mariusz, you had that in your 10-minute video where Ofer was talking about, like, we don't look at our competitors as true competitors. We look at them as, potential collaborators, and they barely kind of scrap at 1% of the market. So these are like very strong statements coming from the CEO, and obviously we know why. We know why he's saying that, and and that goes back to the point why these big names are attaching themselves. Now, I think to go to the slide that we're going to start now, the reason why I did this work is because there is an inherent misconception in the market that plastic recycling companies can get rid of their plastic waste if they have no regulation, as in some of the US states and some places. I can just get rid of it for free. It doesn't cost me anything. And the numbers in front of you will show you that this is so far away from reality. The numbers in front of you show you that if you have a clean waste stream, basically the creme de la creme of waste plastic that you're producing, which is very little, tiny, between collection, tipping, shipping, and the like, in the US, in the most, no extended producer responsibility, no regulation whatsoever, you're going to spend about $220 to $250 per ton. That's just literally to get rid of that plastic waste. Now, if you look at the European side, the numbers are 4x that. So anywhere between $750 to $900 per ton. Again, we're talking about companies that really don't care about their public image. They don't really care about whether this is good, bad for the environment. which, in my opinion, and I think you guys would share my opinion, not a lot of real companies and big names like the Totals and Shells and the so don't want to kind of have, you know, a cleaner process and one that doesn't wind up in the landfill. But just the landfill process, this idea of like, I can just send it to a landfill, look at the cost. And this is, again, the clean of the clean. Now we go into the contaminated, and actually, if you we'll flip to the next page in a second, but the contaminated, and you will see that this is actually low to medium contamination. And in the US, again, in the most deregulated places where there's no EPR, no extended producer responsibility, nothing, you're going to pay $400 to $450 per ton just to get rid of it to the landfill. Again, in Europe, it's about 3 to 4 times that, so 950 to 1,200. And if you flip to the next page, where it gets interesting, is this is caveated that this is only 50 to 100 miles. And I'll talk about this point because this is important, okay? This is one of the biggest reasons why we keep saying what Aduro offers, no one else offers. Modularity is a very unique scenario. Not having to worry about shipping and sorting and collection, it is outside of the cost that I just showed you a minute ago. Okay, imagine how much the time and effort and tedious this process is. When, as opposed to all this, I tell you, I'll build you a plant right beside where the production is. So it's just a huge, huge benefit. And I don't think people understand how significant this is. Now, the other thing is, again, when we talk about tipping, that's only the landfill costs, assuming moderate regulation. Okay, we all know that landfills, and I don't know if you guys have seen this, but I've kind of dug around. There are not a lot of new landfill licenses that go around. And the process to get a new landfill is very, very difficult. And what I've come to realize in my research is that actually the landfill for a contaminated waste plastic is even further. It takes several years to get a license for that. So it's not like we can continue to kind of send these things to the landfill. But I'm just saying, the reason why I showed these is I'm just trying to tell people, look, if you want to say that, okay, there's no base case for the business without regulation, you're absolutely wrong. There is 100% a base case for the business. And then, you know, obviously in Europe, we know that there's the EPR, which is extended producer responsibility. That means that this is, you know, gonna be like that. That is the reason why there is a differential between the US and Europe. And then when you look at it, the US currently has no national EPR tax. But, and this is a very important thing, that is something that's coming, regardless of what people say. So if we go back to the slide for a minute, to the first, yeah. So imagine today, I tell you, and by the way, the numbers in Europe are actually the same when you look at, for example, places in California and some of the, you know, somewhat regulated places in the US. So when I need to spend anywhere between 750 to 900 on a clean stream per ton, or I need to spend, you know, 950 to 1,200 on a, again, low to mild contaminated waste plastic. And then if I get you a solution that will not only make you look, not only get the job done, but also will have you improve your public image, and it will also allow you to not move, not have to worry about the, you know, collection, all this tedious job that is there. I don't know why people, would not want to sign up to this. And this goes back to why these names, the Totals, the Shells, the Siemens, the Clear Farms, and the others, why are they putting their name out there? Because they truly have a very clear reason why they need to get this sorted. They need to resolve the problem of plastic waste from a public image, but also from a financial standpoint. So this is, I'll pause here and, open it up for any questions and before we talk a bit about pyrolysis.
I just think that breakdown, Yazan, was phenomenal. And I know there's going to be, anybody who makes their way in here is going to now understand the more broadened value proposition with Aduro. And it's going to be awesome to see some of this stuff come to fruition and really start to be reciprocated from these large companies that, we know that they're in initial talks, and some of the companies they've been in talks with for years. But, two of the companies with Clean Farms and I know Siemens has a specific piece in this whole thing. I'm intimately aware of how powerful Siemens in the business that I'm in. I mean, they're in the background of the major cruise ship industry. They're in the background of all major shipping worldwide. They are the automation kings. And for those of you guys who don't know, I recommend you read the press release and understand how huge this is to be involved with Siemens and what that's going to mean for ensuring that the efficiency and the automation of the continuous reactors, once they do get put into to commercial status, it's going to be huge. And I thank you, Yazan, for sharing this with folks, because it opened my eyes when I reviewed this and you sent it over to me. I think this is just one additional of many as to why Aduro continues to extend their lead. If there is somebody in second place, I don't know who it is. It seems to me that Aduro is just blasting ahead of everybody in the space. And I do have to back up kind of what Ofer was alluding to. I don't see the competition. And I think, it's going to evolve quickly over the next 5 to 10 years as these names that we're talking about now and introducing to the market, I think they're going to be household names. And I think eventually Aduro is going to be a name that does fall in the household category, and everybody knows what they do and more importantly, what their impact is. Mariusz?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at companies like Tesla, Oscar Health, Hims, people love to get behind those companies because they clearly see how these companies are disrupting the status quo and how they are, improving and adding value to society. That's what Aduro is all about. And when you look at this company, it's very easy to get behind it. And I think we're going to see the same type of support and following that you see on those names: Hims, Palantir, Tesla, for the same reason. But the difference here is that these companies are in the billions of dollars. So in order for you to make money on them, they have to become, like in the case of Palantir, it has to become in the trillions for you to make 10 times your money. With Aduro, but when it gets to the tens of billions, I mean, you can make so much money that you don't ever have to work again. And this wouldn't be the case Aduro could literally today be a $5 billion company
Agreed.
at the level that they are at. And you could still make a case that you can make a ton of money on that. But because so few people know about it at this point, the market cap is so hugely undervalued. That's why the upside is so massive.
I guess I would say Yazan industry's looking at these numbers as well, right? I mean, this is as a result of your independent.
This is all public. This is not
through AI.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
this is like got it from Grok, double checked from ChatGPT, made sure that this is not Yazan. Has some inroads with these plastic producers. This is like really doing some digging and doing some work.
All the plastic producers are dealing with what we're looking at here on the
Yeah,
screen right now.
yeah.
I mean, why wouldn't it cost money? Like
Yeah.
last time I checked, when I want to throw something away, they charge me per month.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so all of this costs money, and where it goes somewhere, well, guess what? The collection companies, the trash companies, either they have their own landfills, or they have to pay somebody else to take their stuff. And landfills are kind of like mining, where it's a landfill is a depleting asset as your space, as you every truckload you dump, you decrease the value of your asset.
Which to your point, Mariusz, this is literally why, if you remember, Eric Appelman was saying that they're in active discussion with 10 waste management companies. Imagine why. I mean, you literally kind of laid it out there. If I have a landfill, if I'm a waste management, if I collect your waste, why wouldn't I want to work with Aduro? I have this, as you said, I can take on, I don't know, 100,000 tons per year, and I need to find space. I need to kind of recycle. So, and we're going to talk about pyrolysis in a minute, but before I go there, I'm going to say another thing. So again, reminder to people that just joined. This is the cost for people that literally are just getting rid of their waste, going to landfills. Okay, we're not talking about recycling. I'm going to touch on recycling in a minute. Okay. Now, the recycling side is the issue that why the Totals and the Shells and the likes are really putting their name behind Aduro. And the other thing that I think people forget is when these names get behind a name like Aduro, it's not the amount, because some people will say, oh, well, we're not seeing revenue of meaning. Well, the amount of people, the in-kind support that these guys will provide Aduro in, the scaling, in the research and the like. And again, I'll remind people that Aduro is not unlike AGLX, where they're tied to the hip to AGLX was tied to the hip to ExxonMobil. And in the case of PureCycle, they're tied to the hip to Procter & Gamble, and their technology is licensed from Procter & Gamble. Aduro owns their IP. Their IP is worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And this is not like something that we're making up. This is in the research, and just to kind of on that research, the $50 price target from D. Borrell actually goes into this. Now, what is interesting is when we go to pyrolysis, which is the next slide. This is your pyrolysis. This is the limited solution that results in, that cannot take all types of plastic waste, that has a very low yield, that is not really great for the environment, and so on. Okay, and I'm not gonna go like dollar for dollar, but look at this. Feedstock costs $100 to $200. Again, they put the caveat there, it depends on the type. Actually, when you do further research, they say if it's contaminated, we don't know if pyrolysis can handle it. But if an upgraded type of pyrolysis can handle some of it, it will be closer to $500 to $600 per ton. So your feedstock cost is significantly high. Now, none of us on this panel knows exactly what will the feedstock cost for Aduro will be, but we're for sure when you're dealing with the 75% that no one else wants to deal with, you're for sure going to get a better rate than the people that are all fighting for the same feedstock. So whilst we don't know the answer, we know that it's going to be a fraction of this. Then shipping and transportation, again, amazing, 50 to 150 bucks within a locality. So again, within a small radius of 50 to 100 miles. Okay, well, if I put you a plant or modular plant right beside you, right off the bat, I saved you, call it 75, 100 bucks per ton. You know, that's there. The other thing that Eric talked about is there will be very little pre-treatment sorting when it comes to Aduro. Look at that when it comes to PVC and drying. This is not all types. This is just a very small, type of plastic, because again, pyrolysis cannot handle all types of plastic. It's 100 to 200 bucks. So I know for a fact that it's going to be lower for Aduro. How much lower, we don't know, but it does. We already heard from Eric that it is going to be, they don't need sorting, a very minimal sorting process. Now the energy, okay, because it's heating up to 500 and so on, you're putting 100 to 300 bucks. Aduro is way less. Labor, maintenance, catalyst, all of these components, okay, are way cheap. They add up. They ultimately, it will cost you somewhere between 1,000 to 2,300. And again, we are just barely talking about a very specific set of feedstock that that pyrolysis can deal with. Now, why is this important? Because if I am Total today and I have 2 million tons of production per year, and that's only increasing, and I have to, in Europe, recycle 25% or 50% or whatever their number is going to be in 5 years, 25% now in this year, going to 50% by 2030. Okay, so I need to recycle, say 500,000 tons per year. That's, again, just a requirement. So if I use pyrolysis, assuming that they can even process my material, okay, I am going to go and spend, let's say, for ease of numbers, I'm going to use $1,500 just so that it's easy. $1,500 times 500,000, that's $75 million per year just to recycle and get a very lousy outcome at the end, that I then have to upgrade it. I have to take that very low quality diesel or whatever it is, and then I have to upgrade it in an upgrader. That is going to cost me a few $100 again. So it's just mind-boggling when you get to the numbers as to why the business case for Aduro is laid out to you. And then, do we know exactly how much would it cost for Aduro? No, but as I said, we know the feedstock cost is going to be way less. We know that there's no shipping, transportation. The pre-treatment is going to be way less. The energy is going to be way less. Labor and maintenance is going to be way less. CapEx, we already said the yield is way higher, so the CapEx and the OpEx is going to be less. And the post-treatment, they already said it's minimal post-treatment. It's not going to be $200 to $500. So what is it? They did not publicize it, but it's not going to be 1,500. It's not going to be 2,300. It's going to be something lower. So, these are the reasons why we are sitting on this panel and pounding the drum and saying, guys, take a look at Aduro. And again, reminder to everyone, pyrolysis and mechanical recycling, which includes pure cycle, can only handle very limited amount of of plastic waste. They cannot touch that 75% that Penny was referring to at the beginning. So with that, I'll pass it on to back to you, Ryan.
I think the elephant in the room here is, when I looked at this project 3 years ago, I thought that plastic was being recycled. And the reality is that 90% end up in the landfills and our oceans. You've just elegantly laid out the reason as to why that is. And this is what we talk about when we hit on the reality that this is uneconomical with pyrolysis and the technologies that we have went back and forth. And I know a lot of money, hundreds of millions of dollars have been dumped into pyrolysis for research. And it is still, as we speak, a disincentive for plastic producers to embrace. And up till this point right now, it has been a problem that has been more economically feasible to sweep under the rug. If I was a business and I looked at these numbers, it would absolutely make perfect sense to put it on a boat and send it across the sea, get it, which ends up into the sea, right? And make as much of this go away as I can, so I'm not subjected to these fees. And if we were working in a perfect world, and if what I understood 3 years ago were true, then we wouldn't be here talking about this. But the reality is that 9/10 of every ton of plastic that is produced is not subjected to a recycling method. So the real disconnect here is to look at the staunch difference between the pyrolysis that Yazan has just laid out and the potential prospects of Aduro. I'm going to sit back and watch this thing unfold. I get so excited.
Yeah, and it's very exciting. Naturally, it's very exciting. But I want to pick up one point you mentioned: shipping. Okay, if you want to ship it, first of all, China banned it. Thailand now banned it. Okay. Now, guess what? The shipping cost is a lot of money. Shipping, getting rid of this plastic waste is a lot of money. This is the other part that people miss, okay, which is the part around shipping, okay, and contamination, CO2 emissions and the like. Okay. Let's say that, so all the shipping costs, whether it's landfill or in the case of pyrolysis, was based on the idea that it's going to be 50 to 100 mile radius. Okay. The reality is that type of waste is going to have to move a lot of more mileage. It's not going to be just that. So what that means is these costs are going to be more. And if you are going to send it by a container, it's going to cost you thousands of dollars. Okay, so it's not I don't care about the environment. Sure, if you don't want to care about the environment, you don't care about, any of that, that's fine. But there is a cost inherited in either way. You want to send it to a landfill, there is a cost, which we just went through. You want to ship it, there's a cost. And if you want to use the alternatives that are right now, which are not very effective, there is a very prohibitive cost. So if we come to you with a solution that says, we're going to be at your site, it's modular, okay, we're going to be on your site, okay, it's a license fee, and it's going to cost you a fraction just because, again, the feedstock cost is less, shipping, there's no shipping, pre-processing is going to be way less, post-processing is minimal, the cost of running the machine is less because of the yield. Again, we don't know the numbers, but less is enough at this stage. Is it half of the cost? And I can deal with the stuff that none of the others can deal with. I don't know, but I'm just saying that is enough for me to grasp on this and say, I want to support this name. I want to be behind it.
Yeah, Penny, Mariusz, you guys.
Yeah,
get
I
this
want to
out there.
talk about revenues and famous EBITDA. How many times did you guys hear since the beginning of us talking about Aduro? I don't want to touch it because it doesn't have revenues. I don't want to touch it because it doesn't have EBITDA, right? You know what? Get over this. Get over this, or you're going to keep looking at it and seeing it go up. Because the same argument could have been made 400, 500% ago. And the same argument is going to be made over the next 1000%. And I probably made $1 million on it already. Yazan probably made 4 or 5 already. And there's no revenue in sight yet. Right? And so investing is more than just revenues. There's so many different ways that we can make money. If you want to be in the business of flipping cars, the car is not generating any revenue, yet you can flip it to somebody. Like, are you not going to buy the car because it's not generating Uber revenues? No, because you can, buy it cheap, you can fix it, and then you can sell it, and somebody else will buy it because you are adding value to somebody else's life by selling a fixed car. And Aduro is solving a major problem to the society and to many different companies. So the key is to study why they are solving the problem to the other companies. I think that the problem that many investors have is that they cannot put themselves in the shoes of somebody else. They think it's free to get rid of plastic, right? Because they haven't really done anything else in their life other than having a full-time job. Somebody pays them money. They have a 401k. They can't even fathom what it's like to solve somebody else's problem. So they cannot put themselves into a situation. Like, how dumb do you have to be to think that it's free to get rid of plastic? I mean, you can't even get rid of your food scraps for free, and you think somebody else can get rid of plastic for free? And also, what are the pain points? What are the pain points for these companies? Why are they getting involved? Put yourself in their shoes and understand it from their point of view, and then you will understand it. Now, going back to this revenue again. PureCycle recently reported their numbers, and they just for the first time showed revenues. Okay? They lost $50 million per quarter, but they showed tiny revenues. And everybody got excited. Now they're $2 billion market cap with their debt or something. And they just showed us revenues. Forget EBITDA. EBITDA. Just revenues. Okay? So we have a much better technology. But we should be multiples their market cap. But if we just reach their market cap of $2 billion, that's $20 million for me personally, and we just saw revenues. Okay, and then I saw some people talking about how PureCycle should be worth 10 times the current market cap. So that's $20 billion, right? So if Aduro reaches $20 billion, that's $200 million for a YouTuber like me, right? And all it is that my mindset is, don't be an idiot. Don't have blinkers on. Don't let the fact that it doesn't have revenues to prevent you from making money. Like, if you want to, that's fine. Keep waiting for the revenues. I'll sell you my shares for $200, $300, $400. I have no problem for you feeling good about paying me all this money because you finally see revenues. By that time, I'll be flying a private jet. So that's all I have to say about revenues and
Rock on,
EBITDA.
Mariusz. Penny?
What cracks me up here is that all four of us are sitting here making money with Aduro, and yet we all have a completely different take. So my take in summary is that we all know plastics are hydrocarbons, fuels are hydrocarbons. They can turn the plastics into fuels. They have an oil well that will never run dry. Circularity means never running out of your resources. For all of us who acknowledge plastics are a problem in our environment, you know, that will change soon. Mariusz, you mentioned landfills being a finite resource, right? And I know you were talking about real estate, but I think that 10, 15 years from now, we will consider landfills to be a resource in another way, because we know that there are very precious hydrocarbons sitting in piles. Sure, they're dirty and they need a talented processor like Aduro to handle it, but there are resources sitting there. This is the ultimate solution to getting plastics, to stop them from going into our environments and then into our bodies. It's the cure for several different issues in our society, and energy independence, I think, is one of the most important ones. So we've got a oil field that'll never run dry, and we'll be effectively cleaning our environment. So
I mean, from what you're saying, Penny, is these landfills with Aduro's technology, they can literally turn them into gold mines.
oh, absolutely. I mean, it is just piles of cash waiting to be processed. I mean, there's metals and there's other stuff in there, but we thought we had a problem, but in reality, we have piggy banks that are all over the place. And I can't wait until we get to the point of being able to, adequately go size up what's in a particular landfill and figure out, what percentage the municipality is going to get back when we reclaim it. So, I mean, that's a ways down the road. But what I see for the next 6 months is continued discovery of Aduro Clean Tech, continued discovery of the stock. And, I think all of us here are early stage investors. We can take the puzzle pieces and figure out how it comes together and say, okay, this is worth my bet. It's worth my bet here. Maybe it's worth a little bit more once this checkbox is, been checked. And, there's a lot of investors out there that their checkboxes are EBITDA positive revenue. They're, some people are like, hey, it's got to be, S&P 500 before I'm willing to invest. Everybody has their own threshold, but what goes along with that is a different reward balance. And the rewards that we get for bothering to do the due diligence, bothering to look into the people, the technology, we get a bigger return. And I will never apologize for that. So I'm really excited for all the people that are going to discover this in the next, few months. And I'm really excited for the profits they're going to make. And I'm happier that mine will be larger. So.
And going back to the landfills that Penny, you said, and so that goes back to what I was saying, putting yourself in the shoes of somebody else. You're the landfill owner. Every time you put more, your asset declines. But now you have a solution that you can now not only improve the value of your asset by cleaning up the things that are in it, but now the dirt and the trash that you have there can turn into a money center, revenue center.
Absolutely.
Gold mine. So trash to cash. So you tell me, are you not going to be interested as a landfill owner because they don't have revenues or EBITDA?
Modular and scalable, right? This is something that we've been talking about from the beginning, and for a lot of people, it was probably just a line or two in the slide deck that didn't really mean anything. Modular and scalable means that this can be deployed for individual businesses that are in the right industries. This can be deployed for cities or towns that are far-flung places like, Yellowknife up in Canada, right? They could have their own modular reactor and they could be handling their waste. They could be profiting from it. There's a lot to this. Circularity means less transportation costs for people. It means less natural resource loss. It means leaving more stuff alone in the ground and preserving the environment as a whole. So yeah, I mean, I don't think there are many businesses anywhere in the hydrocarbon cycle that can't benefit from the technology that Aduro is readying for them. And this new plant coming out in Q3 is a very big deal. I mean, it is, I think it's it's kind of the build, don't operate pivot too. It's like, hey, now we have this thing that is much, much larger that we can benefit from as well, but it is giving the market what they want to see. We are increasing in size and capacity and showing that every time it becomes more efficient. How many machines do you know of that become more efficient with size? I can only think of a few.
And then
Yeah.
also put yourself also in the shoes of the oil companies. They are also in the business of depleting their assets. When you buy gasoline or plastic, that comes at an expense of their assets. So as an oil company, you produce plastic. You can just take some of the waste plastic and turn more plastic or other things from it. That increases the life of your oil reserves. So this technology adds so much value to so many different industries, so much to society. And that's how I view it. That's how I value it. This value is tremendous, not in the hundreds of billions, but in the trillions of value creation for everybody. And that value creation then can be shared by these industries and Aduro. And I guarantee you that value sharing, Aduro is going to get a lot more of that value than what we see in the market cap.
Yeah. If I may just wrap up my side and with one thing. Ryan, if you pull the chart for the people, so Waste Management, okay, is a company that if you go back, to the point of like basically dealing with trash, it weathered the storm perfectly during the 2008 crash, 2020, so on and so forth, and it only has been growing up significantly. Like now, it's almost like $100 billion business, and this is a trading as 5 times revenue, like for a business that collects and deals with waste. And this goes back to the same point that this is the solution, and if they step aside from this concept of like, oh, it's high risk because the market is unstable, tariffs, whatever. No, this is probably one of the most, like, once they get to the demo stage, and I know that there's like probably whatever, in my view, there is another $15 to $20 million worth of dilution that will happen between now and then. But that's like a drop in the bucket. That doesn't really matter, because if you truly understand what we are talking about, like these industries can withstand all this, because the need for a solution is just looking you in the eye. The CEO is telling you, we don't see competitors. And, as Penny and Mariusz was saying, like, all these landfills need the solution. The industry players need the solution. We didn't touch on rubber tires. We didn't touch on the other verticals. We just left them. Okay, we have Dibral giving a $50 target. I mean, come on, like, I don't know how many things do we need to tell you for someone to go and do the work. We're not saying take our word for it and go buy. This is not a platform for this. This is a platform to make it easier for you to take the leap and go do the work. And, we know the work will lead you to where we're at, which is the bullish case is there's so much upside. There's massive upside here. And the bearish case is people are saying, oh, well, the technology does not work, blah, blah. Already dealt like with what Mariusz said. The other thing that I'm going to say is like, look, I mean, I've never seen a company where insiders continue to add shares, exercise warrants, so on, maintain their ownership to 39%. If they feel that this is not working, why would they even exercise warrants here? Like literally 3 weeks ago.
I'll just add my closing comments. I've been investing in the stock market for most of my life, the last 27 years. I have seen stock go up for all the wrong reasons. I have lived through multiple recessions in my time. I look back over the last 3 decades of investing and stocks that come and go, and industry crazes that come and go. We're stuck in one right now with AI and the Palantirs of the world. But something that Penny said, it being non-apologetic about this message, really stuck with me. It is incumbent upon a microcap investor and to ensure that we, for you guys, the viewing audience, you guys know we're all share owners in the company, are expiring all options, all avenues, all potentials, kicking over all rocks of potential. And what Yazan just said about this being really one of the best opportunities that I have ever seen, I would like to see a stock like this go up for all the right reasons. Okay. They made a documentary about the GameStop debacle. And you guys remember this was a couple of years ago. Roaring Kitty got onto YouTube and started a movement of people behind GameStop because a hedge fund got caught on the wrong side of a short trade. Okay. Now that ended up being a very, very good investment from the money side of it. But I caution you to realize below the surface that GameStop is a failing business. It's a brick and mortar business that stinks. If you've ever been into one, and that stock went up for all the wrong reasons. Even with all of that, they made a Netflix documentary about a lot of people that did absolutely zero due diligence on that company and made a truckload of money. Now, the irony in that is a lot of people, because they didn't do diligence, ended up probably losing a lot more than they made. And those are the untold stories about the GameStop debacle. I don't look at that as a success in the investment history or landscape. The hedge fund that got hurt was actually a very, very good and reputable hedge fund. If you read around the surfaces of that. But to bring it full circle for people, we do have a little bit of time before NGP. We are forecasting goalpost at end of Q3. We do have the demonstration unit as early as next year, when we expect it in 2026. But all of the fundamentals that have been forward-facing and released on behalf of the company and paid forward by us on this panel should give you guys really the indication. I charge you, comb over the information that's readily available and find me a bearish thesis with backing. And I do want to emphasize a bearish thesis with backing. You cannot just say that the company has technology that doesn't work or won't work. You have to provide data to support your thesis on the bearish side of it. And I am open to it. I, as an investor, try very, very difficult to look at both sides of the coin for the investors. But the reason why I show emotion with this is because we are aligned in a place in history where this company has the potential of going up, and shareholders to share in that journey in an upward trajectory as it involves for all the right reasons. And I welcome the new investor group. I invest, I want those guys to take this journey with us, not for 3 months, not for 6 months, but really get and redefine what it means to be an investor in a company. Because again, back to my point about microcap investing, it is incumbent upon us researching the microcap space to get this thing right. We don't have the ability to ride momentum like in a Palantir. We don't have that ability. I've made a ton of money with momentum playing Palantir. This is completely different of an investment opportunity, in that the true wealth, in my opinion, is going to be made in the long and ultra long on Aduro Clean Technologies. And I want to turn it over. I want to thank my guests, Yazan, Penny, Mariusz, but I do want to give Penny and Mariusz the chance to maybe summarize their last words. I love listening to you guys, and I just thank you for your continued network. You guys are the only channels and that I watch on YouTube, because I am hungry for Aduro Clean Technologies information, and I hope the investor base that we're looking to grow feels the same. Penny, Mariusz, either one of you guys can give the closing.
I'll just say that I have never been more bullish on Aduro. And I've been looking at this company since before it IPO'd. So every additional piece has been further validation of what Ofer told me in the beginning, and it was that they were going to change the world. So I'm excited for the ride and for all the new people who are going to be joining us over the next few months and digging in and understanding what hydrochemolytics truly means. So that's all I've got.
Yeah, I'm just going to say that we're almost at all-time highs. And during the time that, Trump is creating the biggest uncertainty that we've seen in a long time, right? And we're almost at all-time highs. What happens when, he calms down a little bit and things settle down?
Thanks for the panel. Yazan, did you have something in closing?
I truly appreciate the time and the opportunity. And as you mentioned, I think Penny, Mariusz, yourself have been offering significant amount of free due diligence for anyone that actually wants to do the work. Look, I always tell people, and this is something that's not me, this is my mentor told me this. One of my mentors mentioned this to me a while back. It's like, look, I've been in the business for 40 years, and I can tell you that I can give you all the reasons why you should invest in this company or that company, but it's upon you to build that conviction. Because when the stock comes down, and at one point when stocks go 300, 400, 500% up, when the stock comes down 30, 40% or even 50, you should remember that you bought a piece of the business, not a piece of the stock. And when that conviction gets shaken by the volatility of the market, it's upon your conviction that you built over the months and so on. So I want people to build a conviction in this company. Leave the stock. Honestly, the stock at 170, 180 million market cap is, by all measures, by D. Burrell saying that this is $50, by us just giving you some examples, by comparing Pyrolysis, by doing all this work, we're just telling you that this is cheap at 620 or whatever it closed at. Now, it's upon every individual that wants to join or not to build that conviction. If they decide to join, they really need to build a conviction that is not going to be tethered by today it's up 10%, down 4%, whatever. We could like, and the reason why I brought waste management is because I don't want people to come and say, oh, well, we're hearing a lot about recession. Just give you an example of a business that is recession proof. And, you know, we cannot unfold the future for you, but we can sit here comfortably saying, you know, we're very comfortable with what we own. And that's where I'm going to stop. Thank you again for hosting us.
You're welcome, Yazan, and thank you to Mariusz and Penny again. Kick over to these channels, support what they're doing. I see nothing short of integrity here on this panel, trying to do right by you, the viewer, and that's why we do what we do. We're comfortable with our current positions, and only look to you guys to make that maybe preliminary look or maybe a relook at Aduro Clean Technologies. To the panel, I'm in debt to you guys. Thank you very much for your time here, and you guys be well, and we'll catch you on the next one.